Hey everyone, it's me back again here from 2D Dream Studios here, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys about UI, so let's get started. So for those of you who actually don't know what Unity UI is, Unity UI is essentially a UI toolkit for developing user interfaces for games and applications, essentially stuff like buttons and that kind of thing. It's a game object-based UI system that uses components and the game view to arrange position and style interfaces. You cannot use UI to change or create user interfaces in Unity Editor. So what that is essentially saying in English is basically, it's just for what people can usually touch and tap and stuff like that. So you imagine a kind of bag system or a joystick for your characters to move around on mobile games. That is all developed in Unity UI. And today I'm going to be going through all those different components that you can use. Please note that you can also use the component code that is in our other video. This is really basic, and this is in more of an introduction. So there will actually be no coding. It's more of an explanation of all the different UI. And what I will do in the next couple of days is I'm going to create a tutorial on how to make a good menu. So yeah, I'll start to go through the UI mechanics.
So right now I'm actually in my timeline explain Unity project, and well, it doesn't really matter what kind of project I use, as well all this will usually be the same in a normal Unity project. Just ignore all the stuff that happens actually in the scene. So if I go to the hierarchy and I go UI, and then I go UI, I can go text, text Mesh Pro, image, raw image, button, text Mesh Pro, toggle, slider, scroll bar, drop down, input field, in canvas, and panel. So if you can see here actually, if I click on any of these UI elements, say I want to make a slider, it will install a canvas. And what the canvas basically is, think of it as a canvas basically. So what this canvas will do is it will scale to the Unity camera size, and it will demonstrate everything. So, and if I want to have a slider here, I can just enlarge it. And if I go into game, you should be able to see that, because the canvas is scaled, or it's minimized, down to the size of the camera. But if you actually scale out, you can see that the canvas is pretty big, if I can see, compared to the main camera, which is about that size. But what it does, it scales itself down. And this is one of the biggest things, because you can put text and stuff in there. You can see the size in comparison. So this gives you a lot of room to edit. That's why it's so big. Although sometimes if you go to your canvas in the render mode, it can be world space, which means you can drag it into the scene however you want to demonstrate any sort of text applied to a specific game object, such as a chatting system. So then I'm going to now that you know about the canvas, now it's time to get into the other components of UI. I'm going to just do these UI components in order. So if I go in UI, you can see that you got text. Now text is basically when you have certain words, and do I really need to explain text? It's basically when you can just add, say, a piece of text onto your, say, canvas. And what this can do is this can really just show stuff. You see that? So what happens then is, yeah, it's pretty basic. You can use this stuff to write things on your user interface, like mana, health, stamina, that kind of thing, in words, if that's what you want. You can also use text and apply it to, like I said before, you could use it for screen space. You could change it to a world space instead. Yeah, and that's basically it for text. So now I'm actually going to move on to the button. So now if I go into Canvas, UI, and I can go into button, you can see here that a button is a button. And if you have a look here, you can see that there's a button here. What this does is it basically, it just registers user input. So, and you can add code to this to make it change certain screens and scenes depending on what you want to do with panels and that kind of thing, which I will get into later. It basically just detects input from the user, and it can use many different things using input code that we have done on this channel before. So I recommend you go watch the tutorial if you ever want to get used to buttons. Yet again, I'll make a video on how to make a menu in Unity. So yeah, stay tuned. So now that's basically it for the button. The button just registers input from the user interface. If I just delete that, the image on the other hand can be used for showing a picture on the screen. This can sometimes be maybe an end game thing. So for example, if you have game over, you could have a massive image that covers half the screen. You can also change transparency on the image as well, and color. So if I just want to change the color right now, I could probably just change it to red. And then you can just see I've just dragged it out of the canvas outline. There we go. Yeah. Like I said again, you can probably set an image and have its own sort of thing, just to make it look a bit interesting for symbols and that kind of thing. That's basically an image. Pretty self-explanatory. Now if I go on canvas again and I go UI, we have a slider. And a slider is essentially used to, slide things. And most people use this to be a form of a health bar, because you can see here that you have the value, and the value can change. The value can change depending on the value that you set it, and you can have code to do this, like in the health bar video. Sometimes you can choose what kind of value you want, and usually it's pretty self-explanatory. So you've got the fill area, which is a bit more interesting. So this is actually the interior bit of the fill area. That's pretty empty. And the slide area though, that's basically the little dot that moves. And the background. Background can be used to change colors. So if I wanted this to be a health bar, for example, I could just change the color to red. And probably just get rid of the handle slide area and the fill area. Usually I'd use a slider for, say, volume. So yeah, that's basically the slider. Also, it can register input as well, depending on what you want it to do. You can make it a health bar using certain code. You can use it for basically any sort of bar or health bar that you want to use, say a mana or stamina bar. So now it's time for the next component. A lot of this stuff is actually pretty basic, and the next one is obviously the toggle. Toggle is essentially if I just quickly enter in a toggle. Toggle is a selectable that controls the child graphic, which displays the on and off state, basically true or false. We actually did a video on active yesterday, so you should go check that out if you want to learn about toggles. When a toggle event occurs, a callback is sent to any registered listeners of the toggle. Basically any sort of scripts to turn off anything on active. So that is the end of the toggle. Now, what I'm going to be doing here is, because now this video probably is getting a bit long, I'm going to make this a two-parter. Now, I know some of you may be a bit disappointed in this. I totally get it, but it'll be a long video, and I prefer it to be in either a digestible chunk for you guys to view, instead of just being a straight block of just information being absorbed in. It'll help you a lot more if this thing is in a two-parter. So if you guys did enjoy this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll come back to you with part 2 as soon as I can, most likely tomorrow. So I'll see you guys off, and goodbye, and yeah.